Afternoon.
Hi.
Thanks for your patience. I was getting a cup of cocoa.
Well, yeah, I was just working on some of the work I had to do, so it's no problem.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Let me see if I can rouse Ani. I don't know if she's going to be around or not, but we can
I
try.
will have to stop right at 2:30 because
Okay.
I have someone coming over and they're always on time.
Ah, that's nice.
Yep. Oh, yeah. How have you been?
Actually, I'm getting better.
Good.
My hands are getting better.
Hey there.
Hey there she is.
Oh, there she is.
So Robert's on.
Am I supposed to be somewhere?
You're supposed to be right where you are.
Okay, then. Thank you for making that possible. by giving me a call, because I was just watching Elon Musk and Donald Trump and all that crap. Oh boy. Yeah, humanity, we've got a way yet to evolve.
Some of us
That's
are
true.
younger than others. That's just, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So where are we now, and who all is on this call?
So there's you and I and Robert.
Wonderful. Hi, Robert.
Hi. How are you?
Hey, good.
Yeah. Carl's at a music festival in Ojai today.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm glad Robert's here, though.
Yep.
Good.
I thought you would be.
Okay, so what's up? What are we focusing on?
Well, we just started, so you're in on it right at the beginning here.
So we can do a check-in.
Okay, that's a good idea. I've got to get in touch with what I would check in about. um, because I was just watching, Elon Musk and Trump and all that crap, and it's like, it's just so interesting, you know, the the dynamics of humanity's um, lack of maturation, or in the process of maturation, or something. I mean, it's just all so interesting to watch. Um,
It's true.
how we're navigating the world, well, not the whole world, but how we're navigating so clumsily. We just seem kind of clumsy. I don't know. I'd like to hear what you two have to say. What your focus is on at this point.
Robert?
Well, I mean, I can speak to that. So, you know, I find more and more people who are really wrestling with the idea of how do you know, face head on into seeming calamity, seeming, political, climatic, all kinds of different issues that are not going well, economic, so forth. How do you face that and maintain an equanimity of, spirit so that your heart remains at rest?
I like that.
And, the Bible is full of stories, but so are all other religious traditions. I'm familiar with the Bible, so I'll talk about that because I was just talking to my wife about it at lunch. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Daniel. thrown into that fiery furnace that was 7 times hotter than it was wont to be. I mean, it's, great words, great story, but it does imply something that I can relate to, facing, imminent death. And how do you deal with that with total equanimity? And, it's a huge project. And okay, so how I look at this is I don't focus on it. I focus on, well, some people call it our angelic nature. Some people would talk about, the consciousness that we share with everything else on the planet. I mean, in the universe. But you focus on something much larger than ourselves. And it's interesting. I mean, I just got an email from someone who teaches, self development, meditation, and so forth. And he's very good at it. But his email was saying, how do we do this? How do we stand in the face of what seems like, very destructive and, dangers? So that's the theme I'm kind of looking at. And I'm looking for the words to be able to describe what I'm actually experiencing about it. But what I'm experiencing is that we're on this planet, we are able to deal with these things. It's within our scope to be able to do this. And not if you're involved, wrapped up in the the politics of the day, because this is, once the world weighs too heavily on who you are and the way you're living your life, it just catches you up. You're doomed. It seems. I mean, I don't know if I've given you a concise answer, but I'm laying out the way I'm thinking about it is basically because I haven't come up with an answer just yet.
So what I want to say is that what you focus on is what lives. And what you focus on is what you're creating in your world, in your life.
That's right.
So I don't focus on any of that. It is not my job. I cannot change any of that. There's no impact I'm going to have on any of that. It certainly is not enlivening or exciting to me, does not nurture me in any way. I pay enough attention to understand a little bit about what's happening and where some of the dynamics might be going. I want to know if I'm impacted and my family's impacted on things. So I'll pay attention to that kind of stuff a little bit. But that's not my focus at all. And I don't watch it. I don't read it. I don't look at pictures. I don't share stories about it because it's just not relevant. It is a whole other world of its own, and it's creating itself and it's doing what it needs to do. It's only a part of the world. It's not the whole thing. It's only a small section. So that section gets to be as crazy as it wants to be. And everything else gets to do what it wants to do. So I'm paying attention to life and how I can get other people to be more enamored of seeing life thrive and of understanding the awesome capacities that the planet has and how can we work with them. That makes me excited every time I get involved in it. So I go through things of, oh my God, there's, what am I doing here? Why should what, all that patter goes through my head. And it's like, but then the minute I start working on this, I get excited and happy and cheerful and excited and all. So, I mean, why? That's what I want to pay attention to. I want that experience for myself. I want to feel like that. I want to feel like what I do has meaning and has potential. I want to be able to see the results of what I do to some extent. And in this field, I can. So why pay any attention to anything else? I mean, it just doesn't. And there's enough challenge here. I spent part of the morning on a call with a group called the Soil Tribe. They're an international group that is focusing on the health of the soil. And this morning's call was all about the work being done by the EU to ensure that Europe's soil becomes healthy and the strategies they're using to do that. And that was all wonderful. And I asked a question about, I haven't heard anything about the biotic pump. Do you guys talk about that at all? And if you did that, it would add a couple of things to what you see as what soil offers, like cooling and rain, because she had a whole list of the soil services. And it was like deer in the headlights. Oh my God, I'm not an expert in that, she said. I bet she'd never heard the word before, but that was okay. But let's talk, she said. So we'll see if that happens. And that's kind of, I mean, that's kind of fun in a way, to go poke the bear in a different way. And to expand people's consciousness if they want to be expanded. They claim they do. They have places that you can get together with other people and contribute and stuff. And so I'll be there and I'll talk to spiel and share my resources, and we'll just see where it goes. I think that, I mean, in my view, if they kind of got the biotic pump, it would be a huge blessing for them. It would pull so many things together. It's just such a unifying force. Whether they go there or not, at least I can wave the flag. I mean, that's fun for me. Makes me feel like I'm doing something. Yeah, and yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing everywhere I am. And it's practice for me to be not attached. It's practice for me to do my own homework so that I can answer questions with some, effective capacity and that kind of stuff. I mean, it just makes my personal life much more engaging than it would otherwise be. And I've got enough going on in other areas of my life that it would be really easy to be depressed. Not a problem at all. But there's no point. It's not an experience I'm choosing. And I'm just paying attention to what I can change and working hard at doing that. And that's at all levels of my life, actually. So I'm working on my health so I could be healthier. And that's an interesting process. Doing the same thing with my daughter. She said last night, I don't want to grow up. I went, that's the issue right there. So, you know, so what do you want to do about that? Yeah, I mean, it just, and I can't say that I'm this way all the time, but I mean, there's a certain playfulness about being in life and just playing with it. I mean, just doing what you can, where you can, where you find the joy, the interest, um, the willingness to expand your capacity and put yourself out there and to be a bit uncomfortable. Um, that is, I think, what life is about. Um, and so wallowing or getting mired in or feeling overburdened by all that stuff you can't do anything about just is kind of a waste of time, I think. At least it has been for me. And so I just don't choose to do that.
Well,
I like what you're saying. Yeah.
no, that's one. I mean, I was at a loss for words, and that is one of the clearest, most concise statements of exactly what I was looking, what I was looking for, in my own words. Thank you. Beautiful. Because that's exactly expresses what I feel.
Yeah. And that's what we've learned, right? I mean, that's all about the spiritual path. That's all of those things.
Yeah, without getting into the jargon, I started getting into the jargon. I got slipped in the last minute. like in a poker game, being handed a Mickey and you drink it and suddenly you're out cold and they steal all your money anyway. I mean, you know. No,
Yeah,
it was so well done, what you
oh,
just.
thank you. Yeah, I've been keeping the jargon of the biotic pump just because it's so
Oh.
new and because people really need it. It is a system by George, and it's one you can easily grasp, and it just has so many benefits. So I'm not backing down on that. But I'm not also starting with it. And soil is an easy place to start, and then you can talk water if people want water, and most people do, and water is an issue. So yeah, and then I kind of put the whole thing together. And what's exciting is that people are starting to come to Soil Smart because I wanted people to represent each of these pieces, because it's not skills that I have. I can't go out and change your land. I understand that you should do it and a little bit about what you should look at, but I don't have that skill. I wouldn't trust myself to tell somebody else what to do.
What?
Oh, to design your land to hold water,
I'll change
to
the.
understand that water flow. I don't have that skill. I know about it. I know it should be done. I know the benefits. I have a curriculum I could probably teach. I could put people through exercises, but I couldn't walk on your land and say, gee, you should do these things. That's not me. But I have somebody who can. In fact, I have several people who can. And now I have somebody who's doing soil science. So she's got a microscope and she can look at your soil and she can see what's alive in it. And somebody just came in yesterday who says, I'm doing a senior program or a graduate program, and I want to plant a Miyawaki forest. So there's our local Miyawaki forest expert being born. So we'll have all the pieces to help people. I get to go out and wave the flag, which is about where I am right now. That's good. And these other people can go out in the field and actually work hands-on with folks, which is really what's needed. And I can't do that. So it's great. It's great. It's just, I'm feeling really optimistic about the potential of what we can create if everybody else agrees, which so far we're not there yet, but that's my hope.
Well, I applaud what you're doing, what you're intending, what you're holding, what you're envisioning. I so totally support you in that, and share that with you in terms of intentionality.
Well, we all have our own too. We all have our own paths, things that just light our fires. And that's where we should be spending our time right now, more than any place else.
Yeah, my focus tends to be on humanity's evolution, starting with my own.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's where my attention is.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of change, in terms of evolving as a species, because humanity is a species and we're called to evolve, to consciously evolve. And I tried to be true to that myself, because that's my responsibility.
Well, yeah, for me, evolution has to do with really understanding where people are at to begin with, because that is where they are, period. And to also know that evolution can take many, many lifetimes. So you may not see a whole lot in one.
True.
Which gives me a certain tolerance and compassion for the situation. And that's another reason why I can kind of see where I can have an impact and where I can't. And so I just don't play where I can't, because there's no point. You know, there's just some people, we're just good at different things. And it's just really useful to be able to see where you really can have an impact and how you can have an impact with whatever's around you. And I think that really speaks to what is around you, to being conscious and thoughtful about that.
Mhm.
Because that's another place where we get caught for different reasons.
Yeah, I do put myself first, and by that I mean my own evolution, my own accountability and responsibility. I tend to I don't know. I mean, we have everything. We have everything that we need. We are everything that we need to do what needs to be done to for life to flourish on planet Earth. You know, we just aren't fully aware a lot of the times, and we turn our focus to things that aren't that important.
Yeah.
Sometimes, well, a lot of the time. I don't know, but I appreciate learning and becoming aware and doing whatever I can, however small it is. You know, we're all learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if I'd say something there. Basically, I think that the only thing we can do is pay attention to ourselves and
Mm.
adjustments within ourselves. We can't change anyone else. We can,
Right.
in every moment, we can change the way we are, you know, where our focus is and what is it doing there? You know, does it belong there? Because I love what you said, Kathryn, about, you know, that why throw your focus away on something that you can't do anything about? That's something my wife says all the time. All the time. You know, because I can't do anything about it anyway.
Mhm.
And I don't try to judge or
Yeah.
push anyone else in doing that. But if they ask for something specifically, I can do that, and I do it. But not in a sense of taking over their authority, because I couldn't anyway.
Yeah.
not in a meaningful way. But you can be very much a friend and even an accomplice, you know, in doing that and paying attention to each other in a way that's useful.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a moment by moment set of choices. And I like your idea of where's the life? You know, there's something alive in every situation that comes to us. And, you know, there's an expression of life that's burgeoning to come out. How do we support that?
Mhm.
Or if we don't do that, do we realize the damages it could possibly cause, even small? And, you know, that's really an ongoing, you know, question.
It's a prime directive.
Yeah, that's the prime directive. But I just have understood it in a slightly different way by your just saying it right now. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Will one of you or both of you address the term prime directive and unpack it? express it, explain it,
Well,
define it.
it comes out of Star Trek. And so in the Star Trek series, the Prime Directive was the conditions under which they traveled. So they could travel throughout the universe, but they were not allowed to influence another civilization. In other words, they had to allow that civilization to unfold in its own way. They couldn't manipulate it in any way. And I've kind of taken that thought and applied it to Jeannie Benyus's statement that all actions create the conditions that support life. So that should be the prime directive, in my view, is that all our actions create the conditions that support life. And that's kind of what Robert was just talking about, that there's life in every situation. And so from that perspective, to be sensitive to where that life is and to be able to nurture it or support it in some way, and to be conscious of when you don't, because sometimes we don't. I mean, sometimes we're mad or irritated or anxious or of another emotion that kind of takes over in the situation. And we will cheerfully and with great glee dampen somebody else's possibilities, and feel really good about it for a short period of time. But being aware of that and then being able to reassess that situation, that for me is a lot of what life is really about. Because it's such fun to see life come into being. I mean, I don't think there's anything that tickles more of our humanity than that. We love babies, we love children, we love new life, blossoms, flowers, all that stuff makes us just really joyful because we see that coming into beingness of something. And if that became our focus to really nurture that, what an interesting place we live on.
Yeah, and I mean, the life that I'm seeing, I mean, it's not just something that a project, that we've worked on, developed the garden. No, I mean, it's watching a hawk fly into being as far as your consciousness is concerned, swoop over your head. It's exciting.
Yeah.
To be excited by life. That's another part of it. It's not
Yes.
just
Yeah.
action in terms of what humans would think of as our work,
Yes.
but it's appreciation as well.
Yes. And gratitude. Yeah.
I mean, just the sun coming up in the morning. I mean, the birds show us how just to go ecstatic over that and share it with all your neighbors as loud as you can.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day that the voice of the planet is really birdsong.
Oh, I like that. The voice of the planet is birdsong. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, yes. I've often sensed that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, yeah. Yeah, just enjoying that life in ourselves that gets triggered by things. We have that experience.
That's right.
We have that experience of joy, of glee, of peace, of hope, of awe. All those things are just marvelous. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And how to put this? I mean, we talk about biotic pump and we talk about this and we talk about that, but what this is that we're saying now is really generating focus. I mean, if we could focus on our own I don't know, response to life or capacity for living, or that if it would be ahead. I mean, would be further on our evolutionary path. Because we are responsible for our own conscious evolution.
I think that gets entwined often with things like duty. And we replace that joy with shoulds of different kinds.
Yeah, right. And that's not life friendly.
It's not.
Shoulds are not life friendly when it comes to us recognizing our own responsibility that begins with our own personal, unique conscious evolution. I mean, I'm responsible for me, how I think, what I do, what I choose, what I put my attention on, because attention activates things.
Yep. I think safety is another seductive thing.
Safety is what you said.
Is
Okay.
another seductive thing because and I've been noodling about this lately. I'm not quite sure why, but there's this, you're safe in the cell, but you're also trapped.
Uh-huh.
But you're very safe. So there's something about safety that is really grossly misunderstood. And yet it's a whole worldview. It's a whole worldview. People will gear everything around being safe. All their actions are geared to make them safe in some kind of way. And I don't know that there's joy in safety. I don't think that's the emotion that comes with safety is joy. I don't know actually what that emotion is. There's a kind of deadness there in a way, empty. It's not empty. There's a comfort, but there's not an excitement or even a peacefulness. I mean, maybe for a little bit, but like I said, then it becomes a trap and that peacefulness disappears. So it's a really interesting thing to wonder about because it's not that you want to be reckless or careless or not value your life, but to not want to ever be hurt or to ever die. Those two things are just crazy making. They're very stultifying, very limiting in terms of the kinds of experiences and the kinds of things you are willing to pay attention to or see. Yeah, it's a fine line. I mean, risk is wonderful, but you can overdo that for sure. There's no doubt about that that's possible too. So that's where life just comes for me. It just kind of seems to step out of both of those things to just stay in the moment and be cheerful and involved and intense and engaged. And all those things happen in that process. I mean, I can see taking risk under that, but not even seeing it as risk. It's just a necessary thing to do. I mean, if somebody saves a life, it's not that they're risking their own life. That's not in their head. That's not what they're doing. They're doing something else. And yes, their life is at risk, but so it's embedded in that, but it's not a focus by any means. And yeah, it's just how interesting how our attention can create the reality we experience.
I'm not sure what your point is. Because you're talking about safety, and I know that's a key word for me in my own evolutionary path, because safety is something that I recognize as essential. The sense, the feeling of being safe, the mental condition of embracing safety. I mean, of knowing that I'm safe, of feeling safe, of being safe.
I've heard you mention that when you were in Israel, that how important that experience was because of feeling safe.
Say more, because I don't remember.
Well, what I remember you saying about Israel is that you felt so very safe being outside
Yes,
and in the city, and
I did.
that was just so it seemed to me like that was somewhat unique in your experience because it was notable. It was a noticeable difference from other places you've been. And
Right. Go ahead.
well, and important. Um, and the cost of that safety in terms of the fear that others felt who also lived in that space. I mean, we're seeing that in the United States now, where we're being told that immigrants create an unsafe space, which makes them feel incredibly unsafe,
Mhm.
and yet makes people who feel they're going to go, the immigrants are going to go away, feel safer. And so I wonder, maybe the wondering is because I agree, you have to, you don't want to feel at risk, you don't want to feel threatened. That's not a productive space to be in. But to there's something about it though that's seductive, that is not enhancing. And where my mind wants to go is with confidence, that there's something about internal confidence that gives you a feeling of safety, a capacity to handle things that allows you to move through spaces. I mean, I remember walking through downtown Detroit at 4 in the morning in the black sections of town and feeling no fear.
Right.
Okay, because I felt that I could engage with, I trusted these people's integrity, actually, that their honesty, if I came from an honest space, we'd have no problems. That it was from a dishonest space the issues were created. And that's the way I went. So people would hit on me and I could deflect. It depended on the situation, whether they deflected or made a joke out of it or just sort of ignored it but didn't engage in any way. I mean, just how I responded to that, but never in a way that was confrontive or where I felt I had to protect myself. And I have found such joyful places there that there's a playful spirit, especially in the Black community. In my experience, there's a playfulness there that you can get to very easily. And it's just a delight. I mean, it's just like niggling each other, little tickles on either side to say, hey, here we are, isn't that great? And that's all you have to do. There's no other baggage or anything tied to it, but it's fun. It's just being in that fun space. And I've never had that experience with white folks. They just, there's a heaviness about us, a seriousness, a pedanticness that we just,
I'm sorry to hear you say that, but I must say, I guess the only place where I really would find have a different finding was when I lived in Eugene, Oregon,
mm,
during the 70s
yeah.
period, because
Yeah.
that exactly describes
Okay.
my
Yeah.
impression. And they were mostly white. I mean, there were some blacks, but Shifton Klanier, is that his name? Anyway, the Zydeco, great, came to town, and we had rented the big hotel ballroom, and there were like 500 people there, and everybody danced with everybody. It was the wildest few hours I've ever spent on the dance floor. But so I know exactly what you're talking about, and I know I do miss it a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So I don't want to dismiss the feeling of safety at all, because I think that's critical. People don't express themselves unless they feel safe.
Right.
They just can't really get to that place. And it's been, I was just noticing that, and I can't right now bring to mind who that was, but I was watching a person and I realized that they really felt comfortable where they were, that they were for the first time, in my view, really being themselves publicly in a space. And that only comes when you feel safe. I mean, that's absolutely true. But to focus on safety, it just distorts it in some very interesting way.
Well, I've noticed that around here, whenever I run into somebody who's carrying a gun on his holster and his hip, it just is a cold.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care who it is,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
You don't feel safe. You feel instantly threatened.
I feel something's off,
Yeah.
Well, particularly in situations that aren't unsafe. I mean, are just out walking on a trail where there's hundreds of people really, out on the trails, and just to have a gun. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Or in Walmart or some store.
Yeah,
ice cream
in the store.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
They're not feeling safe.
no.
Yeah.
I know in my own journey of maturation and the issue of feeling safe. The feeling safe has been and is very important to me. It's essential for me to
Got to go to the
feel
bathroom.
safe. There's background. Robert, were you trying to say something?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, yeah. In my own journey, feeling safe, is essential.
Yeah.
And internal. So it's not about the circumstances that I find myself in or put myself in, as much as it is my own mental, emotional, bodily experience in the moment of feeling safe. It's essential.
Let me ask you a question, because again, this floated through my mind. One of the things that I've learned over my journey is about self-esteem. And it also seems to me that the quickest way to improve your self-esteem is to be honest with yourself. So what you say to yourself you're going to do, or you should do, or whatever, that you actually do. And that seems like a little thing, but it's really a very big thing, because we excuse ourselves all the time when we don't do what we said we do or think we should. And so I'm just wondering to myself about the relationship between low self-esteem and feelings of unsafeness.
Oh, sure. They're definitely coupled. I would think. Say it again. Let's unpack it.
The relationship between low self-esteem and feeling unsafe. Now, there's also positive self-esteem and feeling safe, and then there's an exaggeration of self-esteem also, which usually looks like narcissism.
Well, let's go with the first. Let's unpack the first one that you. Let's unpack it. Because feeling safe is essential. I mean, it's our responsibility to feel safe by being safe.
Children always feel safe unless they are in a bad situation. But I mean, they're just intrinsically open, trusting the world is wonderful. It's, then they learn all these other things.
Yeah, until they're abused.
Yeah, or if, yeah.
So what's the point we're trying to come to here?
Well, we were talking about safety and how that happens. And so is there a role for a strong self-esteem in helping people feel safe? I guess would be another way of saying that. Because and for me, actually, that kind of goes back to the Prime Directive, because if we really nurture people, if we keep that life alive in them, then they feel good about themselves. They're valued. They understand their importance as a being, not as a person, but as a being alive in this place, and respond from that. Because it's not tied to personality. It's not tied necessarily to the uniqueness that we are. It's just that we are. And then the uniqueness kind of comes out of there. I would see that as the process instead of the other way around.
See, to me, I don't, we're talking, I, are we talking about safety, or are we talking about something? Are we talking about feeling safe, or are we talking about something else? Because you seem to get to move off of the safety issue.
Well, I mean, that's I think one of the issues with safety. If you feel safe, do you walk around with a gun in your hip?
What are you getting to? Well, what are you trying? What are you trying to say?
Where is safety? How do we?
Good. It's definitely internal, definitely personal. You know, it's. I mean, it's also an objective reality, but we're talking about our own personal experience of safety and what that consists of. I mean, like,
how much is it external? I'm thinking in a war zone, people do amazing things. And they feel safe enough to act in ways that puts themselves at risk. There's a sense of their own safety that they can do this, that they will be safe in the doing of that. They don't worry about not being safe. That's just not part of the context. So it's.
Who is it you're talking about now?
I'm just saying, in a war zone, people act in ways that put themselves at risk because they feel safe enough to do that.
And if we're trying to unpack safety, the feeling of safety and dynamics of safety, let's get simpler contexts than the war zone. Okay, because we're talking about ourselves, us. I'd like to really get to what safety is about, because it's a personal, internal experience first, and at least that's what I'm focusing on now. It's not.
So how do we get to that experience, and how do we help others get to that experience?
Well, we're certainly responsible for that, for ourselves, to feel safe, to be safe, to feel safe, and then to expand that safety net to others. I mean, I just feel we're all over the place, and I don't really know. I mean, I remember when I addressed in my own life and journey the issue of feeling safe, of being safe, and it wasn't as much being. I mean, external circumstance, us addressing external circumstances that we're living in is important, but that's not what my focus is right now. As we talk about safety, it's a feeling, it's a mindset, it's something that I do within myself, and that's what I'm interested in talking about.
Well, I'm thinking also, one of the other thoughts in my mind was safety and how some people would say that that's a privilege. I know I have thought about the experience, as I've learned more about what people of color experience on an everyday basis in situations that are common, you know, walking into a store, being waited on by somebody, trying to buy something, and the feedback that they get about their irrelevance, their lack of importance, or just how people feel uncomfortable or negative about them in some way on a like almost instantaneous day by day basis, walking into a place of all white people and being comfortable. I mean, I'm awed by that, actually. I just really am. The amount of courage and the grace by which they do that is
I'm gonna have to go. Sorry,
okay.
Kathryn.
All right, thank you. It's just really amazing to me. There's so that for me would add courage to that safety, that there's something about that internal space that you have inside of you that gives you the strength to put yourself into situations where you know you're going to have to deal with something unpleasant, and you just know that's true, that's just going to happen, that's just the way it is, and yet you have to do that every day, several times a day. It's just, yeah, interesting to think about. And again, I have to add self-esteem in there, that those people who seem to be able, as an outsider, as I watch that, also do have a sense of self, where they understand their value as a person. Ani, are you still here? Oh. So I think that ends the session. Everybody has gone. Good thoughts.